This is the Soul-Filled Sisterhood podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist and an empowerment mentor for women. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute, nor is it to convey professional, psychological, financial, or medical advice. If you could use such services, please seek them out from someone you trust. Now here is today's episode. Episode 101. If you find yourself often overwhelmed and stressed out, I encourage you to go out to NicoleBurgessCoaching.com/end overwhelm and watch my workshop on the 5 shifts to end overwhelm and live a more balanced and connected life as a highly sensitive woman entrepreneur. Now here is today's episode. Well, welcome, sisters. Oh, I am so excited about this upcoming conversation because this is another cool topic I can't wait to talk to you all about with my guest, who is Jackie Nagy. And she is the creator of the Authentic Life Mastery Program, where she teaches entrepreneurs how to grow their business with a heart-centered approach. Her cutting-edge methods combined with NLP, that's our topic for today, processes helps people release unconscious barriers to success and become autonomous self-leaders so they can live their dream. Through coaching, training, and retreats, she helps entrepreneurs clarify, embody, and empower their highest intentions to attract more clients, increase their income, and enjoy more abundance. Jackie is the founder and owner of Holistic Directions Incorporated, an international NLP trainer, speaker, and coach. Since 2008, she has trained people to be certified classic code, new code, and master practitioners of Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP. She is also the creator of Graceful Autonomy, tangible practices to be courageously confident, congruent, and resilient. I love that. So Jackie, I just want to say thank you so much for being on today. And I would love for you to share with my listeners, how on earth did you get to become an NLP, basically trainer and coach? And we're going to dive more into that, but tell us a little more how you got into this.
Oh, I would love to. Thanks so much, Nicole. Wow. I'm so pleased to be here. I love sharing my story, and I think every person has a really interesting story. One thing that I've discovered in the business that I do. My story really began in my teen years, but I didn't know it. I didn't know that my story began then. I don't know if you can relate to that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, as I had a challenging childhood and I was seeking answers. I was seeking tools, techniques, practices that would help support me overcome the feelings that I was having that was really holding me back from being, very deeply happy. I really wanted, I could have moments of being happy in my life, but it didn't really feel like I was living in it. So my entire life I was seeking these tools.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you can relate, I reached a time in my life, I was turning 50. I had burnt out in a job that I was in as a bit of a workaholic, because when I get my teeth into something that I enjoy doing, one of the problems I had was I didn't know when to rest.
Mm-hmm.
So I burned out and I quit my job and I went on a journey of healing my body, healing my soul, healing my mental health and relationships. Everything had kind of gone by the wayside because I was so engaged in my work.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came through that, I then said to myself, what am I going to do when I grow up, right?
Yes, that age-old question.
Yeah. And I still knew that something was missing, that I still knew that I was still dealing with some of the unresolved trauma from early in life. So I remembered a training course I had attended in England, and it was this Neuro Linguistic programming. It was a half day of a 3-day or 4-day conference. And with that 3-hour training, I brought that back to my sales team. At the time, I had about 100 sales women, actually, that I was coaching and mentoring and training.
Mm-hmm.
And our sales that year increased by a double-digit percentage, which is really quite significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, typically, you're looking, once you're a well-established business, you're looking at maybe 2% or maybe 3% annually. So that really blew my mind. And so I went back to thinking, what was that? And so I started researching this NLP, and I found out that there's way more in this field of NLP. And I thought, oh, I think this could be something that I want to do. And I remembered at that point as well that when I was a little girl in school, about grade 1 or 2, I had this image. I saw the teacher, and I had this image of myself teaching, and I always wanted to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Well, going to school was not in my trajectory. Just because of my upbringing, that wasn't something that my, parents were not very educated. We were more of a working class family, get out there, get a job, which is what I did. And, again, I'm looking at, oh, maybe this is something I could teach. Maybe I could become a teacher. And I had been doing a lot of presenting and a lot of, workshop-y kind of stuff at my other jobs. And I loved it. I love speaking. I love being in front of an audience. So I thought, well, maybe this NLP is something that I could get into. And I had been also a sales trainer and that sort of thing. So I did some research. I took about 3 months. I wanted to find the very best school, and I decided to go to England. And and I always remember that the first training was a 9-day plus another 4 days, 13 days of training.
Wow.
And it absolutely changed my life. Literally was life-changing. It blew me away. And I thought, this is precisely what I've been looking for the last 40 years.
Wow.
And I said, I'm in. I'm going to become a trainer, and this is what I want to teach other people, because the skills that I learned in life skills and business skills, I knew that other women and men were seeking these. If I had been looking for them, I knew other people had been looking for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like I found the secrets. And I said to myself, why isn't all of this NLP stuff being taught in schools? Why isn't it all being given to moms and dads with kids? And because it's all about communicating. So that was my trajectory. And it's so important to me looking back. I'm so happy I took that risk and dove in and invested in myself. It was one of the best decisions in my entire life. It changed my life forever.
It absolutely did. And I love that you have the insight too of how you saw as a young girl, like in first or second grade, in the sense of like knowing a teacher, being a teacher. And that resonates with my heart too. I'm like, oh, I love the teaching piece of it. And how you didn't know exactly what that was going to look like, but just kind of held that in your own heart. And then it was years later that really manifested, because you did the presenting, you did the trainings, but it's like, no, you didn't find NLP until the perfect moment where you needed to find NLP. And that just opened it up. But you have all these skills that helped you with this. So I love that.
I do too. I never thought of it that way. Oh my goodness. Yeah. The fact that had I taken the training sooner, I may not have been in the position to start my business.
Right.
Yeah. And there's something about that divine moment where it comes together and you're not even aware of it looking back.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So share a little bit then with the listeners, like what exactly is NLP? And I know you can't necessarily give all the ins and outs because it is multiple days of training. And you've worked with, if I remember correctly, you worked with some of the founding members of NLP, did you not?
Yes, I did. So I specifically chose to work and be trained by John Grinder, who is one of the 2 co-creators of the field of NLP.
Yeah.
and his partner, Carmen Bostic St. Clair. And the third person is the owner of the NLP Academy in London, and that is Michael Carroll. So I chose that route as I have that corporate background. And John and Carmen have been working in the business, business coaching and mentoring and training for decades. And it really appealed to me. It really, there was that combination of the business side of it and also that human, personal side that I was looking for. I really wanted the combination, and I really found it. So I'm so happy I made that choice.
It's lovely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
share a little bit then, what is NLP?
Right. So again, the acronym NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. And there's so much information now after the field began in the early 1970s in California at Santa Cruz University of California in Santa Cruz, California. And so there's a lot of information. There's been thousands of books written, so people can go and explore that. I would say, from my experience, from a practical point of view, it's really the tools that every human needs to have in order to fully understand how our brains and body work together, how we know what we know. So it's very much about modeling, as when we're born and innocent, babies without the language, babies learn how to do what they do by modeling others, and as adults, we still have that ability to model. So NLP is a practical set of tools and practices to be able to model excellence in whatever field of study a person wants to aspire to be good at. So a lot of people who are very, very good at what they do, whether it's in athletics, whether it's in even relationships, in sales and business, and some people are exquisite in nature and gardening. They know what they're doing, and they're very, very good at it. They're using NLP to do that, but they don't really know it. So I'm very interested in the peeling of the onion and taking away the layers of how does somebody be so good at what they do. I want to unpack the micro steps that a person takes to get to that level of excellence. And that's what I'm so inspired about. But the thing is, every human is capable of doing something really, really well, and also is capable of doing something not very well. But they often don't know why. You don't know what's going on. How come I'm so good at this? And I'm a really great chef and a really great cook. But I have absolutely no skills when it comes to dancing, or, you know what I mean? So, and my belief is that we can pretty much do anything we want. I mean, there's some limitations, of course, with age and opportunity, but NLP provides you with the tools to be able to achieve whatever it is. And so that's in a nutshell at a really high level. I mean, we can get into discussing about what are the practices, what are the same things that hold people back in life. And that's where the really deep work comes in. And NLP provides the ability to get really deep into the unconscious. So hypnosis came from the current, way we look at self-hypnosis, and therapy, deep work with therapy actually was seeded and developed and coded by the co-creators in the early 70s in the field of NLP. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
So it's very much used today in coaching, just about every coaching model, sales training, and relationship building. And, many people are held back in life because of some sort of trauma earlier in life that's unresolved, that's still held in the cells and the cell memory of the body. And so NLP helps us, get really, really deep into the deeper aspects of how we store these emotions and representations and memories from the past, and release those and learn from the lessons and move forward in life. Also, how to be really present in the now. There's a lot of talk about being grounded and centered, but a lot of people don't have a technique to actually do that and stay in that very in the body experience so that we don't respond to pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tools to be able to be less reactive and more proactive, to be in that state of flow.
Mm-hmm.
And these are all practices that NLP, the co-creators, it took them over almost a decade to create the processes, test the processes, and so they're very well developed. And the really cool thing about NLP is that once a person comes through the training, they then have the steps that they could use in their own life. So that's the part that got me really excited with my business, was the ability to be autonomous. It's always something that's been very important to me. The freedom to be,
Yeah. So I was going to say, to go really, that goes back to your value, right? The autonomy, the freedom. And so it's like, teach me what I need to know. And then I can go back and really, it's the more we teach it, we know that we also embody that then. And that's that self-continuous, our growth and our learning. Many of the people that I work with, that is it. It's like once they learn the tools, it's like our learning, if that's part of your also value system, it's a forever thing. We're continuously learning. And you hit on a couple things. So one, I have a background, right, as a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a background in trauma work and trauma recovery. So I know the majority of people, whether it's clinical or coaching that I work with, there's usually some sort of trauma or something that has impacted people. And it's bringing that forward because sometimes it's like, oh, I've worked through things, but then you start in this new business adventure. You're starting in a relationship, or the relationship is changing, or your kids get to a certain age. All of a sudden, that trauma stuff can show back up again. And being able to have some of these tools in place, you can really move through them. So I'm curious, Jackie, are you able to give, like, I don't know, some sort of tool or technique that you would use that would be part of like the NLP training that a person would go through?
I could, yes. Do you have an example?
Yeah, I was going to say, and let me preference that in the sense of, let's say, well, let's just go with your example, because I know a lot of the women that I work with, again, they're very high achievers or they're highly sensitive, and overwhelm can get them, perfectionism can show up. And like you, they can really kind of become workaholics and start to burn out. So what would maybe be something, a tool that they could use to help them either recognize it or get back to the moment of now, where they can start to shift and bring their life? I don't like the word balance because I think it gets overused. So I like the word harmony, where maybe they can start to shift and pay attention to like, ooh, I'm doing too much of this, which is exhaustion for me, something along that lines.
Yeah, so thank you so much for bringing up the difference between the balance and the harmony. I am so on the same page with you with that. I was seeking balance and realized this is actually something that I don't think is possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that the harmony is the key. Mm-hmm. So one of the exercises that we teach is, or one of the concepts that we teach is that most of the problems that people encounter in real life situations is at a higher level than the behavior that they're displaying. Mm. So we're working at a higher level, especially in the new code of NLP, at the higher level of state and outcome and intention. So, let's boil this down a little bit more. A lot of therapy is unpacking the behavior. Now, that's not to say that we don't do that kind of work and we're looking for the trigger that sets the behavior in motion like a domino effect, right? Mm-hmm. And what we want to do is insert a new response the next time the trigger occurs, so a different outcome happens and a different behavior happens and a different outcome. But there's something about having a technique that's more in the ability to use it in the moment, because we don't always have the time to step away from a challenging situation and say, wait a minute, I need to, go and do some coaching or call my therapist and have an hour or two session. Mm-hmm. We sometimes are under pressure in the moment where we need to be able to respond differently instantly. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's the part of this work that really inspires me. And I think for a lot of women in business, this is the piece, because if we don't catch that oomph, you said it, you used the word oomph, I think, before the domino effect happens, the pattern is most likely going to run, and then it's not as easy to stop it once the behavior starts to run and the state gets lost and the person's overwhelmed and they're feeling vulnerable and they're feeling stressed. And then it's a matter of having to fix it. And it takes a lot of time to do that. So you said it when you went, oomph. There, the body is the messenger. So the body is sending signals to us. We call them SOS signals, spontaneous occurring signals. And the signals are telling us to be on alert. Something is happening in your presence that the body wants you to pause and take a breath. And metaphorically, if you will, or if there's space to do so, to almost step outside oneself, to have that ability to create some space, whether it's micro or macro. Macro meaning if it's in the moment that the body is responding with this, feeling it often is in the sensation in the chest or in the belly, tightness in the shoulders or in the neck, or a bit of a headache coming on. If you're able to, just get up and move. So that first movement actually gives the person space. And in that space, it's an opportunity to assess the situation. What is she doing over there? So it's a matter of looking at oneself from that metaphorical distance. And, what is she doing? What's happening? How is she responding? What is what is her desire in that moment? And how is she not, responding resourcefully? And what could she do different? What was the goal or the outcome she set out before she started into? So it could be, for an example, I teach a lot of people sales training. Well, a lot of people don't like to have sales conversations. However, they know that they need to in order to build their business.
Correct.
So something happens, let's say, for example, on the phone with a client, perhaps, repeating a bit of a script to guide a client through a process and a conversation. But at some point, the conversation is going sideways. The person is offering some objections about whether it's timing or money. Those are the two common ones. And the person on the phone, the salesperson, is starting to feel the heart palpitations or a little tightness in the throat, a little tension in the body. But because they're so in their head, they're missing the signals. So one thing that we teach in the training is to really pay attention to those signals from the body. And getting, the only way to do that, by the way, is to practice paying attention to the signals in the body. Yes. And so we, set up a practice every day to do that. Then when that call happens and the feelings and the sensations come from the body, it's developing the ability to kind of multi-process, to stay in attention of the conversation while simultaneously listening to this body sensation, asking oneself, where is this conversation going? How am I responding right now? A little self-coaching, a little self-dialogue about, oh my gosh, I'm getting so in my head. I'm so not in connection with my heart. I've lost my way in this conversation. I began wanting to really listen to this person and find out what is their challenge in their life? What is stopping them? And maybe it's a matter of picking up some fear or some vulnerability in the voice tone, if it's a phone conversation, or if it's in person, getting a sense that the person is backing away. There's some fear showing up in them. And when we're in our hearts, we can pause and bring ourselves back in to the intention of the call and quickly change the dialogue, change the conversation, go back to asking inquiring questions, what questions, how questions, loving questions, caring and compassionate questions. And so a conversation where there's an objection around money can quickly shift into a question about how can I help support you in affording this, because I know it's something that you really want to attend. I know, that we've identified what your challenge is. I know that this product or service, workshop, event, whatever it is going to really support you. Let's have a conversation around how we can make the money aspect work for you. And then it becomes a negotiation. It becomes a conversation, a caring conversation. As I truly believe that when that happens, when a person's challenge is precisely what a salesperson's product or service is designed to solve, then it's really a matter of finding a way to support that client through the process of making the decision to join. That's it. Or to make whether it's a tangible item or a coaching session or whatever, and it's having that ability to really stay in our hearts, staying in our bodies, and developing the ability to simultaneously maintain the conversation. So that does take practice, and we teach those skills in the training course.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you've said it twice, really, it is a practice. So what I typically will say is you get into that observer role, and that's it, like where you say you've shifted your perspective in a sense, like you're observing yourself, going like, what did she want in that moment? What is she going after in that moment? Where it's still you, but you're not attached to necessarily the outcome or what you're experiencing in that moment. It's just like, okay, how can I stay really grounded in the moment and stay connected to my heart? So whether you're in a sales call or you're trying to decrease your own overwhelm, self-compassion is huge. And as you're saying, connecting with that heart space, that it can shift the conversation with yourself. It can shift the conversation that you're having on the sales call, which we also like to sometimes call the service call versus selling. Because I know for some people, selling equals like sleazy, and it's changing. It's like, no, you're coming from a place of service. And if you're coming from a heart space, that's absolutely coming from a space of service. So I really love that. It's beautiful.
Yes. And I liken it to what improv actors do. Any theater, it's even actors that do live theater, dancers, performers, musicians, in particular jazz, it's a bit of a dance that we have with the other players, with the other musicians, with the other athletes, with the other actors on stage. And every human has the ability to develop those skills to be, like you said, to be the observer of oneself while simultaneously continuing in the relationship we have with others around us. And there's a really beautiful way of being, and it can flow through into relationships with our family. Our ability to not disconnect, but have that separation and witnessing oneself. That's the word.
That's the word. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And being attentive to what is this other person that I'm speaking with? What is it that they're needing and wanting, and how can I serve them best right now? It's a very freeing place. I feel it's a very loving, freeing, compassionate, empathetic space to be in.
Absolutely. But I was smiling too as you were saying that, because I'm like, I find it fascinating, right? That again, the clients I've worked with and myself, I can even forget this. It's like, oh, I can really do this thing really well over here in my business when I've got my hat on, I'm this businesswoman. And yet it's like, well, if you can do that there, whether it's the service calls, sales calls, being with your clients and you're coaching them, whatever that is, you take those same skills and you turn it into your personal relationships, whether you're parenting or your, spouse or partner. It's like, oh, I can do the same thing, can I? And it's fascinating because often what I will hear is a woman can do it really well in one arena of her life, like her personal life. Like, I'm really good at that over here, Nicole, but I have a hard time as a manager, as a leader, to do the same thing over here in the corporate world. And it's like, if you know the skill in one area, let's apply it to the other area and vice versa. So
Yes.
I love this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's where the mastery comes in, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just a number of ways of either mastering it. I don't know. Sometimes I think mastering it in one particular area has a generative effect of flowing through into other areas of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So whether it's personal, whether it's in business, whether it's with oneself, relationship with self,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, the discipline to stay with it and master it in that one area will have the effect of flowing into other areas because you become a new person. You're reprogramming yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
inevitable that it's going to start flowing into other areas.
And like you're saying, not only with the flowing, but it's such a ripple effect, whether it's with your sales team, your teammates, co-workers, colleagues, your family members, because like you just said, you become a different person because you're literally thinking differently, that you're behaving differently. And some people are not necessarily going to necessarily quote the change, but they can either get on board or not. But it's truly a ripple effect. It's hard not to change when other people in your life are changing. If you come from that mindset of I'm here for learning and growth.
Yeah, and that's where the modeling comes in, by the way, too. And you know that too. When mom changes,
Yep,
and comes into the house with a different outlook on life, with a different her inner dialogue is different, her mindset is different. She's more grounded in her heart. That is going to have a ripple effect in the family. You can't stop it
right.
because we as humans, our mirror neurons in our brain
Mm-hmm.
are matching each other. So this is one of the areas when I started learning NLP, having been a single mom, said to myself, oh my goodness, I so wish I would have had these skills when I was a single mom. I didn't really understand the impact that my state was having on my child's state,
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, I get so inspired and excited when I think about how these skills can help individuals. And then, like you say, the ripple effect to others. It's just beautiful.
Yeah. And when you were first talking about the work and who you worked with, it's like it needs to be in schools. And I feel that way about a lot of different ways that are being taught and the concepts behind them. It's like, oh, why are they not in schools? Because like you said, it would just make a huge difference for how we all interact together and break through so many limiting ways that we currently kind of have in our world. And it's like, wow, what a different world we would be in if we did things differently.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that goes back to my belief that who I serve when I'm serving, a lot of my clients are women. I would say about 80-20 women to men. That we talk a lot about how can we apply these skills, like you said, outside ourselves, so in relationships with our family, but also in community. So, we do a lot of tasking, as you know, as a coach, I'm sure you do the tasking.
Yep.
And about, how can I be more compassionate with the clerk in the grocery store?
Yeah.
How can I be a model of a heart-centered, grounded individual to be as a support under, when people are under stress, and I could enter into that space and bring that energy in and be an influence. And then by finding someone in the community to join, and growing the community one by one and teaching those practices. So one of the things we talk a lot about is how can you take these skills home to use for yourself and teach them to friends, family, community, and the world, and spread
Oh,
it to the world, right? That's
lovely.
my mission, is to get these out to the world. And it's one at a time, one human at a time.
Yep. I have that same philosophy. Change
Oh,
one human at a time, and it really
I
does
love
make a difference. I love it.
it. Yes.
Well, Jackie, I know we could talk more, and I want to be mindful of our time together too. So I want to shift just a little bit before I share all your information, how people can find you, how they can get a hold of you, how they can work with you. Share a little bit because of the work that you do and the people that you are teaching and working with. What are some of your self-care techniques that you do to really manage you so you don't go back to that burnout place? Because I know when we love what we do, if we're not mindful and not taking care of our other aspects of life, it can really creep up and you can burn out. So what are some of the things you do now to take care of you?
I love that. Thank you so much for asking. I have developed a morning ritual, a holistic morning ritual.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something I do every single morning, I'm going to be honest. But I do something every single morning from those rituals. I really connect with my deeper self, my unconscious self, to find out what is it that is really, what is my deeper self, my authentic self calling me to do? What is our mission today? So every morning I do an intention setting. I also explore the dreams, if I've had any dreams the night before. I have found so much learning in uncovering dreams. There's so much to be locked on. It's an area that I want to dive into more, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So the unconscious is sorting all the daily experiences while we sleep. So that's one of them, is going through the dreams. What is the message? What is there to learn? And then about what is my intention for today? What are my outcomes for today? So I don't do a morning goal setting necessarily, although at some point when I get to my computer, I do
Mm-hmm.
put down more of a succinct. I also look at what is the state or states throughout the day that is going to support me. So if I have a day that has I may be coaching clients, my state that's going to support me is going to be much more staying in a state of being compassionate, being empathetic, being caring, and listening, really deeply listening. Other days I may have a calendar that is I'm presenting, or another day might be writing content for something. So, it might be focus, it might be discipline. So I really take some time and I use an NLP practice to anchor in the state or states that are going to support me that day. And I also look at what about at the end of the day. So it's called future pacing. So at the end of today, having been everything that I've worked through in the morning rituals, what is my day going to look like? What will I have achieved if I do what I say I'm going to do? And that gives me an opportunity. It almost starts to program the brain for success.
Yeah.
We start to see ourselves, hear ourselves, and even step into and feel ourselves achieving what we want to achieve. And anytime I get distracted or I may get tired, I remind myself to listen to my body. I remind myself to do my self-coaching, to move, to, sometimes it only takes about 5 to 10 minutes, but also to continue to remind myself of what it is that I set out to achieve. What is that going to look like? And it really only takes seconds, 30 seconds to sit back. Is what I'm doing right now going to result in me achieving the outcomes and intentions I set for this morning? And if not, okay, let's put this aside. Let's go back and be refocused. So it's sort of like a constant resetting, if you will. And that's something that I do. And it could be health related as well. Have I eaten healthy today? Have I drank enough water? That kind of thing.
I love that. I really like that starting out. I know I talk quite a bit about self-care and self-reflection in the podcast. And I think, again, that tapping into your authentic self, I like to say also soul, divine, spirit, because you're really wanting to be guided from that. And I love also the future pacing of like, really is like, what is going to help you set yourself up to succeed today? So at the end of the day, if you would reflect on, which I know not for women, we don't do this, I don't think enough, really reflect on what were my wins today, big, small, whatever it is, that baby step you took to get you closer to the thing you were going after for that day, or the bigger goals you've had set for yourself. That is it. And you're like, if I didn't set myself up to succeed in that in the morning, that you can say, let me go back and refocus and ask that again. If that little activity I'm thinking, oh, that'll help me. It's like, no, it won't. To change that. And so you really are seeing your day go through. And so when interruptions do happen, you just kind of flex and pivot and stay focused on where you want to go, or get refocused and keep moving forward. I love that. Oh,
I do too. I think it's really the only way to success.
Yeah.
There's so many distractions right now that we can so easily go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So, that discipline piece is one of the most important pieces, I believe. But if we don't know what we're wanting to achieve, then it's a make work project. So knowing that what we're wanting to achieve is in alignment with who we are, and that what we're doing is also good for others. There always needs to be the both, that it's good for us and good for others. Otherwise, our deeper self will not support us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Love it. I love it. Well, ladies, for, again, I'm going to have Jackie's information on the show notes. Her website is called holisticdirections.com. She's got, I'll have her Facebook, social media link on the website as well. And if you go out to her website, she has a gift, which is called Top Tools for Life Success. And it's on her website that you can download that information and go from there. So I just want to say, Jackie, thanks so much, and giving us like kind of a sneak peek of some of the things at NLP, like what you're training people to do, but also the overview of what it is and how the whole purpose of it is really for people to master these things, so that they can have that freedom that they're looking for in their life, and having the business that they want to have, or the career that they want to have, and relationships that they want to have, and just for making the difference that you are in the world. Thank you so much for being on.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Nicole.
To sign up for my workshop on the 5 shifts to end overwhelm and live a more balanced and connected life as a highly sensitive entrepreneur, go out to NicoleBurgessCoaching.com/end overwhelm.